Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to this week's episode of the CryptoNoobz Podcast, where we talk about cryptocurrency and the world around it. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about AI in fashion. I am your host, nelsonrecardo.x, and I'm joined here with my co-host,
Lambo242.
and we would like to introduce our guest for this day, Mrs. Lorraine from House of Nova. How are you doing, Nova?
I'm good on a cold, chilly Saturday morning.
Yeah, I can imagine. You're based in New York, right? Your cold is different from the Bahamas cold.
Yeah, I'm not even going to comment on Bahamas cold,
Yeah,
okay? I'm
yeah.
not even going to say nothing. I was just in Jamaica, and Jamaica January is nothing like New York January, all
I
right?
can imagine. All right, so let's get into this. So Nova, you started off as a psychologist, if I'm not mistaken, right? So
That's correct.
what was your haha moment that made you shift from going from the couch to going towards like futuristic fashion and into that field? What was like the moment where it's like, all right, yeah, I need to make this pivot?
Yeah, I love this question because when you think of psychology, most people think of the Freudian couch, which is really funny. So I was actually studying at the University of Connecticut, pursuing my doctorate in clinical psychology. And one day on the way to class, I had what I call a divine download. And I kid you not, I was stopped in my tracks. And it seemed normal at the time. And I think back to it, I'm like, "What?" But anyway, I had this vision. I heard these words that I was gonna help people through my love of fashion. And just to set the stage, I know you both are in the Bahamas, so you can relate to this. I was born in Jamaica, so Caribbean immigrant here in the US. And to
Hey.
say I'm gonna leave my very predictable, guaranteed career path in psychology as a doctorate of clinical psychology to pursue fashion was nothing but a divine download. And I will be honest, I didn't listen to it at first. I just shrugged it off. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I went about my day. And I would say some weeks later, it came back in a forceful way, and I couldn't ignore it. And when you just have that feeling, and you hear something over and over again, over and over again, to you just have to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. And I knew I had to have the conversation, some very, what I felt at the time, challenging conversations with my new husband, because I had recently got married, my new in-laws, because their son had married a to-be doctor, what they thought was going to be my parents, Jamaican parents that are trying to make the best for their kids here, to say, oh yeah, about that path about psychology. I'm gonna go to New York. I'm gonna study fashion instead. Really wasn't sure how anyone was gonna react, but I also knew I wasn't asking permission. It was really just out of respect. This is what I'm doing, and I have to do it. And it was absolutely a calling. And so, to my surprise, everyone was extremely supportive. I mean, it was the scariest conversation I had to have, and it was just, I was like, okay. And that's when you know it's God, when he opens the door and you just have to walk through. That's it. And that's what I did. I walked through, and I finished up early with my master's, went on to New York to study fashion design at FIT, and I haven't looked back.
All right, I like that. I like that. And if you saw me fidgeting around, I was not fidgeting. I was getting my pencil and note because divine download. I wrote it down. That's the first time I ever heard it.
Yeah.
And I like it because it makes sense. Because sometimes you might have things on your mind, but it's like sometimes, like everyone believes in their own thing. I believe in God. He sends you a message to say, all right, yeah, this is like a sign,
That's
So,
right.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I could imagine how it was to go to your parents and say, I was studying to be a psychologist, but I'm feeling more fashion now, right? And and my goodness, how Caribbean parents could be when they already didn't have a plan for you, like
That's right.
a certain expectation for you. Listen, I could only imagine that conversation. So, Nova, you're a part of the top 100 in AI creatives. You're an award-winning futurist and fashion designer. You've worked in fashion and gaming. You're a keynote speaker, and you're also a part of the top 100 women in AI and Web3, right? Now, one of the things that I absolutely love about this conversation is that you are someone from the Caribbean. Now, much of our audience comes from the Caribbean, and when it comes to Web3 and AI and things like that, like I feel as if in the Caribbean, we could actually have a lot more conversations than we're currently having about these
Yeah.
technologies. I would like to know, how does Caribbean culture show up in your work, even when it is futuristic or digital?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, when I'm designing with generative AI and I'm creating fashion and I'm creating them on models, I'm using models that look like me and my daughters. And that's the first thing because I didn't grow up with a lot of representation around me in my state and my universities and even in the circles that I've chosen professionally. And to have the choice to bring that diversity into my work, I make that intentionally. So that's one thing. Two, in terms of colors and textures, we Caribbean people love color and we love texture and we love to show off and we love to express ourselves very much through fashion. And that was something I grew up around. And so I bring that into what I do. I was drawn to fashion at a very early age with aunts that could sew their own clothes. My mom being very handy at the machine, also being always looking, always aiming to be the best dressed in the room, even going to the grocery store. And so wanting my customers to be and feel their best every time they walk into a room is something that I aim to do. But then I look at colors very intentionally using my psychology background and using what I know intuitively around self expression. And how can I use color and texture to help the wearer feel better, to increase their mood, to increase their vibration, their frequency, their consciousness. And so I feel as with indigenous roots coming from the islands, we are tapped into those frequencies. We're tapped into this mode of creativity. And I bring that into my work as well. And my most recent collection is titled Woven Dreams. That's what I debuted on the runway during New York Fashion Week a few months ago. And it was this origin story of how we're all connected. And, from many people, from many one people, it's our motto in Jamaica. And that goes true. That's true for all around the world. That's true for us and our connection with nature. And I chose to use textiles as a way to tell that story very out loud, how we are all connected. We're made of the same stuff, from the fibers of the plants to the connective tissues within our body. And so these are all the things that I use that I feel are connected to my background and my culture that I also bring forward into my design work.
I just have to ask though, have you ever heard of this song that goes like, all of we is one family, all of we is one?
If I heard it, I might recognize it, but I'll be very honest, I'm not good with song titles, or my kids tease me, but they like memorize all lyrics and titles, and I'm like, okay, that sounds familiar. Like I have to hear it to sing it. But who's the singer?
I'm honestly not too sure who's the singer, but
No.
it's just a song that we would sing a lot inside like the primary schools growing up in the
Oh,
Bahamas. And like how the song goes is like, all of we is one family, all of we is one. And
yeah,
say, you're my mother, you're my father, all of we is one. And
I love
then it
it.
talks, then a part of the song says, I come from Bahamas, Bahamas. You come from Jamaica, from Jamaica. My grandpappy came from Africa. Like it just talks about like all of the various Caribbean countries and how like all of us are one.
Yeah.
So it's like when
Mm,
I actually heard you speaking about that particular what should I call it? That particular
motto?
motto. It just instantly clicked. Like that literally is the whole point of the song, to show that all of us are just one, you know?
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. Absolutely. You got to send me the link to that song if you have it anywhere.
Yeah.
Send it over
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, sure. I'll find it and I'll definitely send it over to you.
Yeah, awesome.
So, Nova, how does psychology shape like physical and digital wearables? Like, how does it shape fashion, right? Because, like, for example, I'm a person, I like to wear jewelry. And I know in every instance, wearing certain, like, I like to wear a lot of jewelry. Now, I know that's not called for every situation. But how do you think from a psychological standpoint, or like with your previous training as a psychologist, how do you think you've carried that into fashion, or like any skills you would have transferred over?
Oh, yeah. I mean, although I walked away from psychology on the clinical side of things,
Hmm.
I never walked away from the field and the knowledge base. And I think I gravitated towards that because I have a natural desire to know and use and incorporate the study of the mind and how we behave as humans and how we integrate into the world around us.
Hmm.
And so when I design, I'm extremely intentional. And a lot of it is intuition, but a lot of it is the studies that I've done throughout the years. And even though I completed my degree many years ago, I continuously study, and not just psychology, other fields as well, because I think having a multidisciplinary background is key to creating the most comprehensive gestalt understanding of the world around us. And so, in terms of psychology specifically, it is how can color and shape, silhouette and texture impact how someone feels about themselves as and how someone enters into the room,
Yeah.
how they stand tall, how they show up in a space, how they communicate. And so, for example, I see gray and blue in terms of the colors you both have chosen to wear today. And if I asked you right now to tell me, how does gray make you feel, Nelson? How would you say, what would you answer when you're
So
wearing gray? How do you feel in that color?
so gray just makes so right now you can't see it, but outside it's kind of gray and cold and moody. It was not right. So gray makes me feel kind of settled, kind of at peace, kind of cold. Uh yeah, just kind of just straight to the point, you know?
Okay. Okay. And if I was gonna say blue, you're wearing blue, how does that make you feel?
Probably I'm relaxed. Like I think of water. Like as a child, I really loved water. I love being in water. My favorite color is aqua. So that is kind of, yeah. So I
Okay.
guess that's peaceful and calm, relaxed.
Okay, I love it. And if I challenged you both to wear red every day for a month, how would that make both of you feel?
I wouldn't have a
I
problem.
mean, red is my favorite color, but I like to change it up. So I wouldn't like to wear it for the whole month, you know?
Okay. Okay. And so just, simply just looking at these two colors you're wearing and a color that even it's your favorite color, you would say, okay, I want to save that for special occasions. And so a lot of us take for granted even just the colors we choose to put on
Yeah.
our skin. And we're wearing clothes more than we're not wearing clothes throughout the day. And each color holds a frequency, each color holds a feeling in terms of how we interpret the feeling and how it makes us, react to things throughout the day. And so even if we simply just paid more attention to the colors that make us feel neutral, excited, or even slightly sad, that make us feel joyful or playful or creative. And so, based on what your plans are for the day, you can choose the colors based on how you want to show up for that day. You can amplify your superpowers just by intentionally choosing colors that you want to wear. And I haven't even touched on silhouette or texture as it relates to our clothes, right? The linings and how it feels against our skin.
Yeah.
The architecture of the garments and how we can move within the garments, right? So these are all things that psychologically have an impact on us, but we just get up, it's raining, we grab a raincoat or an umbrella. It's cold, we put on a jacket or a coat, long or short. We're going to go running. Oh, let me just grab those black spandex pants. But what if those pants were polka dots? How would I show up on the track, or how would I show up running around the neighborhood, right? So these are things that most of us take for granted, but there are tools in our toolbox that we can use to improve our mood, our creativity, our sense of self, our feeling of peace and joy. So I could go on, but that's how I incorporate psychology and what I do as it relates to fashion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because, like, for example, I'm a person who loves to wear suits. I wear suits a lot. And I know depending, like, if I'm going on a certain meeting, I'll wear a certain tone of blue suit or a certain color
Mhm.
suit. Like, if it's more of a casual, relaxed vibe, I may wear a lighter suit. If it's more serious, then you wear like a darker blue, something like that. And like it does really transcend into the psychology. I like that.
Yeah, because I'm sure the more structured suit, or even if it was a darker color, you would come in with a more serious tone or attitude
Definitely.
versus if you wore, let's say, a light purple and it was more relaxed and it was a linen.
Yeah.
That's a completely different vibe, right? And then you would become one with that mood and that vibe. And I think that those of us that are more, I would say, intuitive will probably pick these things out intuitively. But those that aren't, it's something that, you can be intentional about.
Yeah.
So Nova, we understand that you do use AI with your fashion, right? When people hear AI fashion, what do they usually imagine, and what is it actually like inside of your studio?
Yeah, I think the average person probably has no idea what AI fashion is. Okay. They're like, what is that? Or they scroll a lot on social media and they see a lot of videos with babies on the runway, or cats wearing gowns or something. And they're like, oh, that's AI fashion. For me, it's a little more comprehensive than just a cute video. And it's how I conceptualize design. So I was trained traditionally at the Fashion Institute of Technology. So big up to FIT in New York. And I love illustrating. And so initially I would sketch and, either use marker or pastel or charcoal to illustrate my garments. And I would see those images on the page as art. And so, but it would take time. And sometimes if I'm just doodling or I have a quick idea, I'll just sketch it out, pencil sketch, boom, done. And if I'm explaining that to someone, so if I said, hey, Nelson, I have this idea of this leather jacket with zippers on the collar and let's say a zebra lining, and then it has some detailing on the sleeve, and I do a pencil sketch. Now, in my head, I can see it, but I show you the pencil sketch and you just see a few lines. You're like, okay, I think I know what you're trying to make. No, now instead show you an image, which is a hyper realistic, let's say photographic image of a model of my choosing. And they're wearing a garment that looks like it was taken in a studio with really bright lights. So you can see the texture, you can see the detailing, you can see how it hangs on the body. And then now I animate that. So now you can see how the fabric moves on the model as well. And that's very different than the black and white or black and gray pencil sketch that I just showed you, right? And so now if I ask you as a customer, do you like it? You're like, oh, wow, I can see how that looks on me. Or if I ask you as a manufacturer, can you make it? Or a sample maker, can you create the patterns for me? You're like, oh, yeah, I can do that. Or can we adjust this? Or can we adjust that? If I sent this to you as the textile creator or the print designer, you now have a very strong visual of what I'm trying to accomplish. And you could say yes or no. You can accomplish that with me. And so it really empowers not just me as a designer, but the co-creators I have on my team to bring the garment to life to the closest representation of what I'm imagining in my head. Where before I would have to verbally talk through this and or take time to illustrate it with my various markers and tools and maybe paint or pastels, or give you a modest version of it with a pencil sketch and hope that you're going to bring it together in the way that I envision it in my head. So now let's say you're my sample maker and you create a sample for me, and it's 70% of what I wanted because I spent the days and the hours talking through it and going back and forth, but it's still not quite right. It still doesn't hang quite right. And so now we have to go back to the drawing board, redraft the pattern. I have to buy more fabric, recut the fabric, resew it, and now we're 80% there. So you see how much time and waste there is in that process of just conceptualization. We haven't even gotten to the final piece yet to fit it onto the customer. And now we have to hope the customer likes it, where I can show it to the customer ahead of time. They can say, yes, I love it, or maybe make it in red. And now they're getting exactly what they want as well. So this is just a little glimpse of part of the process of one of the ways that I can use AI within AI.
I like it because it's really practical, and it saves a lot of time in imagining like what it is that you're trying to bring to the table for both the customer as well as the coworkers. And I never saw it that way. I never saw it being so practical. Usually when we have conversations around AI and any of the arts, especially fashion, right? People kind of get mad at that because they're like, AI is taking away from the real creativity and all that good stuff. But here you are, you found a way to actually make it work, and not just work, but work in a very practical light,
Yeah, for me, it amplifies my creativity. And I'll also say it's something that when we were talking about intention when we were getting dressed, right? I think intention is something that we should use in every aspect of our life, from where we choose to live to what we choose to put into our bodies, but especially when we're using tools. So if I'm a carpenter and I'm choosing to use a screwdriver or a hammer, I'm being intentional, right? I can't put the nail in the wall with the screwdriver. And so similarly with AI being a tool, I'm being intentional in how I use it, because if I give away too much of the control or the creativity to AI, then I am taking away my creativity. I'm diminishing my, authority of what I'm putting out into the world. And so I too have to be intentional on how much of the tool do I want to use in this process? Where do I want to begin with it? Where do I put the guardrails around it? But in how I'm using it in my day to day, it's empowering me, and it's amplifying my creativity, and it's helping me push my imagination, stretch my imagination. So I see it as a design assistant where I can go back and forth and play with concepts and put some to the side or decide which ones I want to bring to life. And that's just one of the ways that I use AI in fashion.
Awesome, awesome.
I like that. So I was
Yeah.
gonna ask you, how do you think AI is changing fashion? Like what was impossible 10 years ago? But so I think you answered that question.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I'll add another element to that. I'm building a tool that takes what I would do with my customers and it scales that. So in AI, when I'm talking or teaching, I'm asking, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And so when I had my showroom and store and customers would come in, I would give them advice. I see what they look like. I get an idea of what event they're going to, and then we get to work, and either I guide them to what to purchase and or I make something custom. Now with this tool that I'm building called Aura, like the aura that we all have energetically, but Aura with two R's, because got to put a little twist on it. So Aura with two R's. With Aura AI, you get a fashion advisor that helps guide you in terms of what you're wearing to events. So again, you can show up as the greatest version of yourself. And it's using your personal attributes. It's using your goals. Again, bringing the psychology into it. Now, I can't be with everyone everywhere when they're going into their closets and picking something out. So it allows me to help solve the anxiety around what people have to wear to high stakes events and places that they have to go without being there. So it's imparting that knowledge through AI so they can access that insight and knowledge whenever they need to. So that's another way that I'm using AI. And there's so many ways that you could bring it into fashion. And I'm just touching on two small use cases, but there are so many other ways that AI is impacting not only the ecosystem from a sustainability standpoint in terms of how do we expand our creativity and inspire others as well.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely. Trust me, I think I need an AI fashion assistant sometimes. Like I remember just a little joke, like me and a friend back in high school, I remember. Because like just in general, most people tend to follow fashion like celebrities, right? Like usually a lot of times celebrities tend to be trendsetters in certain things. So I remember in high school, I was trying to dress like a certain rapper, and he's like, my friend was like, you can't dress like him. Like he's a totally different body size than you. Like what's gonna look cool on him is gonna look awkward on you. He said you have to look at
Right.
football players and bigger guys and see how they dress, and you have to kind of mimic what they do. And he was right, right? Like it was kind of right.
Yes,
So I
it's
think
true.
definitely something like that just will help the everyday person how to, coordinate for certain events, because I have used AI for like reviews. I was like, okay, how much jewelry should I wear? Should I wear a pinky ring on this interview? And it's like, no, don't do that, because if you wear only one, then keep it to a minimum, this, that, and the third. Put it on your least dominant hand so you don't be waving your hand all the people face with the ring.
Right,
Yeah, like
right.
So I like how you could use these things for different aspects in your life, like bringing it to real world use case. I love that.
Yeah.
So as I was researching you, I saw some of your work. I saw some of the conversations. I would have learned that it was your son that would have put you onto generative AI. And another thing that I saw that was really interesting was that you designed for Meagan Good. I saw she coming inside of your studio and you guys hugging. Could you tell us a bit more about that and how did that happen?
Yeah. So shout out to Bryson, who put me on to generative AI quite some years ago. And in terms of Meagan Good, she's such a beautiful soul. But I had the pleasure of meeting her just a few days before Fashion Week. Actually, it was the day before our runway show. And she came to a private fitting that we had. And she got a chance to see the collection up close and try on a few pieces. And then she has a couple pieces that one from the vintage collection, one of my earliest designs that won the Best Haute Couture Designer of the Year award for me. And then one of our very, very popular designs that we put on the runway called Phoenix, which is a hooded capelet, puffer capelet. And she has a couple of those pieces. She has those pieces. And yeah, it was incredible meeting her. She is extremely supportive, and again, can't say enough of how incredible she is as a human. The energy she has, her smile, the love that she brings into the room wherever she goes. So yeah, that's the little backstory on that meetup with Meagan.
That's dope. That's dope.
So Nova, not only that,
Mhm.
have you? Yeah, am I correct? Have you done work with NASA or like in the NASA program?
Yeah, so I was invited to apply to be a part of this cohort. It's an accelerator that NASA was running for entrepreneurs, and especially looking at entrepreneurs of color and what they can do to bring NASA technology into the commercial space. What problems can we solve for everyday people using NASA technology? And so I applied, I got in, and it was an incredible summer where we had to come up with an idea that we were going to pitch that would turn into a business, build a team, find the customers, product market fit, like all of
Yeah,
this
they
all
put you all to work.
in 8 weeks. And it was such an incredible experience. And initially, when I was thinking about ideas, I was leaning towards textiles because there's some really amazing futuristic textiles out there. And the more I thought about it, and I was like, okay, this life cycle in terms of the research and product market fit might take a little longer than just some weeks. So I'm going to lean into the software side and data side of things. And I conceptualized a project around data art and AI art and how that can impact fashion and storytelling. And that's where the concept around the House of Nova was born in terms of how can I bring emerging technologies such as generative AI and blockchain and immersive tech into the space of couture, which is very traditional fashion, and sort of bring on this new era of self-expression and storytelling. How does it collide? How do these very different elements collide together? And it was an incredible experience. I met some amazing people. I'm still in touch with quite a few of the innovators from that accelerator, and grateful that I had a chance to birth House of Nova during that time period.
So you don't work with NASA, you don't work with Meagan Good, you're doing it all.
I mean, listen, listen, and we love to see it. Listen, we love to see it because once again, and I cannot stress this enough, for a lot of us in the Caribbean, we love seeing our people out there globally doing these incredible things because within the island, sometimes we don't, the reality is sometimes we just don't see ourselves doing that. There are certain expectations that you have growing up. So when we see people out there doing the big thing and like breaking all the rules and, it gives us excitement and more than that, hope.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It made me think about getting my art on the moon. And it's still a very surreal experience when I think just that journey and how being introduced to new technologies and being open to embrace them and learn about them and bring it into my work has allowed me to have the opportunity to see my art selected, for such an incredible project as the Luna Prize Museum. And again, special thanks to Bit Basel, who went out seeking 22 impact artists, and giving them the opportunity to represent humankind through this incredible project of bringing together various forms of art to live in digital form on the moon, to be discovered by whomever many, many years from now, to showcase what our culture is like and how we can showcase that through art. And so when you mentioned, being from the Caribbean and giving us hope. And, I remember as a little girl walking into the room and being the only one that looks like me so many times and having to go within myself to find the courage and the hope to say, hey, I can do it if I don't see anyone else around me that looks like me doing it, just knowing that we're all born to do and achieve whatever we want to. And when I think to that moment, and I'm just really, really grateful to be an example, to say, hey, you can go from a small island like Jamaica to the moon, okay, and beyond. That's just the beginning, right? And so I appreciate you having a program and platform like this that allows stories like mine to be told.
Thank you. Thank you. I just have one more, though. If a Caribbean designer wanted to enter this world, what kind of tools and skills should they learn first?
I would say start with a problem you want to solve as a designer. And where on the spectrum are you as it relates to design, the design spectrum, the fashion spectrum? Like, where on the scale do you see yourself? Are you the artist? Are you the sample maker? Are you the pattern maker? Are you the manufacturer? Are you the salesperson? Are you the publicist? Like, where are you? And in terms of the other skills that you have. And so I love to design. I love the art and I love the branding and storytelling. But let's say I may not like the operations side. So I will find a tool and say, okay, can this tool help me solve a problem within my operations? For example, if I'm a designer and I'm a great sketcher, but I don't know how to market or brand, is there a tool that I can help solve with my branding or marketing? So I say start with the problem and start with one tool, because the problem is going to lead you. It's going to be your carrot to self-educate, to ask questions, to find mentors, to find opportunities, things to sharpen your skill set. And then add to that toolbox complementary tools that will allow you to continue to expand on the solutions around the problem you've identified. So I think if you micro focus there, you're going to be able to ideate around what tools are best for you, and not just grabbing something because it's the latest, most popular tool or technology, but you're really creating impact within your own world and your own ecosystem.
Some sound advice.
All right, so that leads into my last question. From your book, Jockey on the Horse, what's one idea the next generation of creators should understand about AI, or things that they should know about AI going forward?
Love, love, love this question. I was just thinking about this to myself this morning, and how it's so important that we remain co-creative with the tools and not let AI lead us, but for us to continue to put the human first as it relates to the problems we're solving and protecting ourselves, putting guardrails up and being ethical and very conscientious in how we're applying these tools and technology. And I feel that there is a camp that's really excited and they just want to tinker and experiment and play. And then there's another camp that's like, oh, this is a financial opportunity. It's profit, 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 profit. And there's another camp that sees the tool as giving them an advantage in whatever aspect, and they're just using it for whatever means necessary. And I think we have to remember that we have the control and the opportunity to shape the future of how these technologies play in our lives. We are the consumers. So if we say no, nothing's happening. If we don't buy, if we don't play with the tools or touch the tools or use the tools, nothing is happening, right? But if we remain ignorant and we don't understand the technology and we move in a space of fear, then that's the future we're going to create, a future of ignorance and fear. And so it's really important for us to choose, the higher ground in how we're going to use the tools and say that if I'm going to solve a problem, what is the conscious way of solving that problem? And how can I use this for a more positive future? Because if it's not creating a more positive pathway, then what's the point? What's the sense? If I'm creating more time for myself, supposedly if automation is giving us back time, but we're spending the extra time doing more work, then what's the point? Doing other work, then what's the point? Right. So it's saying, hey, here are the problems it's solving. Then how do we move more consciously, more positively within this new space that we're building for ourselves? But most importantly, we have the power and the control to shape where it goes. And we can choose because we didn't have the opportunity in the era of the internet when it was launched. It was given to us. We weren't participants, we weren't co creators. But now we can be co creators and active participants in how this new technological future is going to show up for us. And that I think is so important. We don't have to be led. We can co create and we can lead in this new era.
I like that. I like that. Definitely. It gives a lot of introspection because it's like I made a post the other day. It's like money is a great servant, but a terrible master. So I think you could say the same thing about AI, use it as your servant. Don't serve it, you know? So I like that.
Mhm.
I love that.
But we are nearing the end of the podcast today. Nova, first and foremost, we'd like to thank you for teaching us so much about AI and fashion and how AI actually amplifies creativity rather than reduces it. And it definitely we do appreciate you letting us understand a bit more about the fashion industry and even like motivating many of us inside the Caribbean about how this is very much possible for Caribbean residents. What we'd like to know is where could we find you? Could you just tell us some of your socials? How can we get in
Yeah.
contact with you?
Yeah, so The Real Nova Lorraine on Instagram and TikTok, and Nova Lorraine on other social platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn. And you can just Google, you'll see my websites, novalorraine.com, the House of Nova official.com. Yeah, so I'm always, always open to connect and co-create and collaborate with others. So if you're listening to this, please reach out if any of this inspired you and resonates with you. And just one other word that I want to share around AI, be intentional in what you want to give away to the tool. As you're using it, you're training it. And not to say that for you to be afraid, but just know what of your creativity, what of your knowledge, what of your insights you want to share with the tool, and what do you want to protect? What do you want to put guardrails around? And again, it's all about intention, right? As we're talking, but know as you're using it, you're training it. And if you were training a child, what would you teach the child? What would you give away to the child? What would you want it to learn? And so those are just a few things that I wanted to share.
Awesome. This has been another episode of the CryptoNoobz Podcast. If you guys want to give us some suggestions for episode ideas, or if you just want to contact us, you can just hit us up on any of our socials. CryptoNoobz.xyz is our website, or CNoobz Media on social media, or even CryptoNoobz on LinkedIn and Facebook. You guys have a wonderful day. All right. See you soon.
Thank you so much.